How you doing, folks? Papa Joe here. I had absolutely no intentions of making videos tonight. Tired, dirty, want to shower. Going to shower in the morning when I get up. Got here and all I want to do was eat and go to bed. I did. Then I woke up, middle of the night. Yeah, you're going to have to deal with this kind of stuff. Couldn't go right back to sleep. And got reading up on some of my stuff. Guess what? Found something I want to share with you. And it's pretty important for you folks that are wanting to drive. Okay. We have bear with me here, in the middle of the night. We have what's called Landline Magazine. It's OOIDA, Owner Operator Independent Driver Association. Very good outfit. They keep us well informed. They fight for a lot of our rights. I would suggest y'all sign up with them. A little yearly fee thing to be a member. But I get their emails. Now, I'm not going to use this guy's name. I'm going to call him Mr. Smith, or Smith. But he'd been taking Prime, New Prime Inc. They was known as Prime, and then they got in a lawsuit many a year ago. So to save them the cost of having to change the name of everything, they went through legal nonsense, so they started calling themselves New Prime Inc., although it still says Prime on their trucks and trailers. What did I do with my stylist? Do y'all take my stylist? Now then, the title is Court, as in the court system. New Prime medical process likened to hurdle jumping. Now, y'all pay attention. If you're thinking about quitting your job and just getting into trucking, this is the kind of nonsense you have to deal with. Now, listen to what this man had to deal with. Like I said, this is from Landline. This is a very reliable source. It's not a Facebook feed where they make stuff up, and don't get me started on that. Excuse me. Since August 2010, when Mr. Smith decided it was time for a career change and to leave his job as a correctional officer in South Carolina to be a trucker with New Prime Inc. Actually, I was a correction officer in Missouri when I came to trucking. Might be something to that, huh? That didn't work out, and since then, Mr. Smith claims the Springfield, Missouri-based motor carrier has effectively prevented him from landing a trucking job. He brought a case against New Prime Inc. in 2013, so 3 years, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but it was dismissed. The U.S. Courts of Appeal for the Fourth Circuit recently revised a lower court's dismissal, saying that the court ruled in error and Mr. Smith was to get his day in court. The South Carolina man learned to drive trucks in 1971, so he ain't no kid. He had about 7 years of over-the-road experience under his belt at the time he was talking to recruiters at New Prime on August 2010, according to court documents. Dadgummit, I got a problem. In late August 2010, he got the green light to go to Springfield, Missouri, and to go through orientation at New Prime. The recruiter told him he would have to pass a medical exam and his pre-employment drug screen. Now remember what I've told you about recruiters. They're used car salesmen. They're going to tell you whatever it takes to get you up there. They don't care that they're fooling with people's lives and can ruin people's lives. That don't matter. It's a number count. It's a body count. Let's get bodies and orientation. Then it's somebody else's job to ruin their life. No, you ruined it by not doing your job and making sure somebody was totally qualified. So y'all have to watch out. You've got to be careful. I can't express that enough. Alright, back to the story. Dadgummit. According to court documents, Mr. Smith had a condition believed to be or diagnosed as narcolepsy, whatever that is. He was under the care of his personal physician who had prescribed dextrodrine to control the condition. That's a speed. His physician gave Mr. Smith a letter stating the prescribed medication would not adversely affect Mr. Smith's ability to safely operate a commercial motor vehicle, as Mr. Smith had for many years been driving commercial trucks safely while taking dextrodrine, and had experienced no problems with narcolepsy. Okay, I can't pronounce them. Shoot me. Through a series of medical exams and drug testing hurdles, New Prime not only denied employment of Mr. Smith, but also prevented him from securing a trucking job elsewhere. After securing the right to sue New Prime from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Mr. Smith took New Prime to court. Mr. Smith quit his job as a correction officer and traveled to Springfield for orientation in September 2010. When he reported for his medical exam and drug screen, court documents state he presented Prime's medical examiner the letter and his prescription. He was told following the exam and the drug test that was positive for methamphetamine for speed, that New Prime would only accept Provigal whatever treatment, and he would have to be on it and stable for 6 weeks before employment. So they're wanting to change his medication, and you got to be on it 6 weeks and stable for we'll talk to you. Mr. Smith returned home to South Carolina to work on complying with New Prime's orders. Shortly after returning home, he got a call from New Prime's medical review officer. The MRO needed to verify directly with Mr. Smith's personal physician the diagnosis and prescription for the speed, according to the court documents. If the MRO did not hear back within 5 days, the pre-employment drug test would be reported as a positive test. The court's opinion stated that Mr. Smith's personal physician tried a number of times to contact the MRO and did not receive a return call. Imagine that. After completing 6 weeks on the Provigal, Mr. Smith called New Prime on November 1st. According to court documents, he was transferred to the personnel office, where an employee told him, "You cannot work for Prime because you tested positive for amphetamines," and then hung up on him. Mr. Smith had attempted to get the MRO to revise the positive drug test results and sent a letter to the doctor on November 19, 2010, asking him to reevaluate. 2 months later, the MRO response, according to the court documents, he responded according to court documents and told Mr. Smith, even though you have a prescription for amphetamine, in my opinion, you have a disqualified medical condition since narcolepsy is a safety concern. After receiving that letter, Mr. Smith participated in a sleep study and found out that he did not have this, but rather had sleep apnea. After undergoing treatment for the apnea, he wrote the MRO again on May 25, 2013, explaining the change in diagnosis and that he no longer needed medication. He asked the MRO to reconsider clearing his name so he could drive again. According to court documents, he received no response. Imagine that. Mr. Smith tried to find work in trucking only to be told by one company that he had a record of abusing speed. He eventually became homeless and suffered extreme emotional distress, according to the court records. They don't give a damn about y'all. You ain't nothing but an ass in a seat. Pardon my French. These companies, they drive me nuts. And they say, oh, it's not personal. It's only business. Yes, it is personal. You're talking about our livelihoods. You just made this man lose his home. He's living in the streets, lost everything, and it's not personal? Well, it's not personal for you. I bet you he took it pretty damn personal. Please. The EEOC, Equal Opportunity Commission, green-lighted Mr. Smith to sue, and he filed suit on September 5th, 2013. The lower court ruled against Mr. Smith, saying he did not exhaust his administrative remedies to argue New Prime's decision that he was not a qualified individual. So this court saying he still needs to go back and argue with Prime that is not replying to him. He went through the loops. He tried to talk to him. Prime is not responding. You know, how do you communicate and negotiate and talk with somebody that's ignoring you? You can't do it. Let's see. The Fourth Circuit said the lower court's dependency on the FMCSA, and that's something you'll learn about, regulation pertaining to a disagreement over diagnosis was an error, and New Prime's argument to that end were not relevant. However, the court found a discrete issue before us, an issue that paralleled another case, according to the Fourth Court's opinion. The court cited Stephen versus Coach USA, where a bus driver took a medical absence from work with Coach USA. His physician and Coach's medical examiner medically cleared him to return to work. However, according to court documents, before Coach allowed the bus driver to drive on a permanent basis, it sent him through a series of hurdles that prevented his medical fitness from ever being determined. Hurdle jumping rather than medical disagreement is precisely what happened here. Yes, it did. The Fourth Court vacated the dismissal of Mr. Smith's case on those grounds and remanded the case back to the lower court for further processing. Requests for comments from New Prime's attorney and Mr. Smith's attorney were not returned. So that's something y'all got to worry about. I mean, big time. You do. Do not just quit your job. I mean, these companies, it's a game to them. It's nothing but a game. They don't care that you quit your job, that you got 3 or 20 kids at home going hungry. They don't care. All they care about is their numbers. They have to have so many bodies in that classroom. They have so many trucks that they need to fill. And that is exactly what they're working on. So these videos that I make, I am trying to help y'all to figure out if you're qualified to drive, if you even want the job. Truck driving is a very hard job. You're not just sitting in a seat sightseeing. It's hard on you, it's hard on your family, it's hard on your body, it's hard on everything. And then when you have clowns like this, and I used a nice word, I would rather call them something that wasn't so nice. When you have people like that jacking with you just because they can, ruining people's lives, oh, don't get this old hillbilly started. That is uncalled for. They need to get hung up by their, yeah, they do. That is not right. And there's more companies out here that do that nonsense than you can shake a stick at. You could be the next victim. Watch yourself. Cover your butt. Educate yourself. Find out. You can go get a DOT physical. DOT physical. It ain't going to cost you but $50 to $100, something like that. Go get a DOT physical, especially if you're getting up in the years, you're getting on a little bit of weight, you have anything wrong with you at all, any kind of medical issues, any kind of physical issues, go see a doctor and get a DOT physical and ask them to educate you. Blood sugar could be a no-go. Blood pressure could be a no-go. So just because you think, oh, that won't affect trucking, yes, it might. So if you have any kind of regular medication that you have to take, go get a DOT physical. Spend the $50 to the $100, whatever it costs in your neck of the woods. And I know if you're in Yankee land, it might cost you a couple $100. But go get a DOT physical. Talk to your doctor. Find out that if what you have, if it is going to hurt you in the trucking industry. Stuff like that gets me fired up. Excuse me for getting emotional. It's wrong. And they are putting more and more garbage like that on us all the time. We have our U.S. government right now that is filing a bunch of nonsense, or getting ready to pass a bunch of nonsense laws. They ain't got a clue about my job. I've been out here 25 years. I've got a half a clue. They ain't even in touch with you. They're living the life of Rowley up there on $250,000 a year, whatnot, saying that ain't enough money. How much money you make? You know, and they're hollering, that's not enough money. It's too damn much money. Take over half that money away, maybe we'll get some problems fixed. Don't get me started, folks. I wanted to warn you about that. I read it. It got me a little bit fired up. I wanted to share it with you. Remember, God loves you, and so do I. Y'all need to really think hard, and you need to make sure you got all your P's and Q's in line before you come out here. Don't quit your job till you know for a fact that you're qualified to be out here. God bless you. Hope this helps somebody. I hope this saves somebody from going through that kind of garbage. God bless y'all. Have a good night. Bye.